All right, so I posted this on our Facebook group, and these are just raw data numbers. I like to look up numbers. So I basically took the last 33 years, right? Everybody knows the 90s is the most golden era. Everybody loves the 90s because most of us saw the 90s, right? Most of us didn't see the 80s. More than that, didn't see the 70s or the 60s, right? So we'll stick with the 90s, and I call it the ESPN NBC era. But basically between 1990 and 2000, these are the stats that teams had put up as a team, all the teams together. They average 100 points per game. They shot 83 field goals per game, shooting 46% from the field. They only took 11 and a half three-pointers per game, shooting about 34% from there. They had personal fouls. The average fouls per game was 22.8, so close to 23. They played at a pace close to 94 possessions per game, and their rating was 106 points per game. And I put the free throw to field goal thing because I know a lot of people love to talk about fouling and defense. Well, this shows how much time the team went to the free throw line compared to how many times they actually shot a ball. So that will show you the 2000. I mean the 90 to 2000 era. That's 11 years. So the last 33 years, I split it from 11 years all the way across the board. Then I call the 2001 and the 2011 era the zone defense era because the league changed rules. They basically went to allowing zone defense. They allowed more international play. All this crazy stuff started happening in the 2000s that people love to talk about. But I was shocked to find out that the points per game was lower. They shot lower, as far as field goal percentage, than the 90s. Their pace was slower than the 90s. Their offensive rating was slower than the 90s. But the fouls went down. So supposedly the softer era had less fouls and less free throws. And if we go to the modern NBA, which is what we're watching right now, which is 2012 to 2022, you can see the points per game is higher. The field goal attempts are more. They shoot a little bit better than they did in the 2000s, but not as good as the 90s. But they shoot a lot more three-pointers, and they make a lot more three-pointers. They shoot three-pointers at the best at they ever have. They foul less now than they ever fouled. And the pace is higher, obviously, because they changed a few rules, the 8-second rule for half court, and also the offensive rebound 14-second reset of the clock, which allows for more possessions in the game. But the offensive rating, same thing. It's 100 possessions. They score more points today in today's NBA than they do in the 90s, and they go to the free throw line less. So these were just raw data that I brought up. I know some people were telling me, why did I pick these numbers? Because these are the numbers that they use to say what teams are good, right? I mean, is there any other stats we could use to say how good a team was or not?
No, this is,
Oh, this
a good summary of everything. I know when you look at it, it's not too much of a difference. I always say you add like a minute and a half to today's players compared to the 90s, and you're going to get the same amount. It's just
Mm-hmm.
players today are shooting better. As you can see, their points are only 5 point difference. It's less than 5 point difference on two and a half more shot attempts. So it's not like it's crazy. Their pace of play is like two more possessions a game. The offensive rating is only 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as big of a difference as a lot of people want to see. When you hear other players like Rasheed Wallace, Kevin Garnett they talk about their era in the 2000s being better than the era today. They all say this era is soft, but the 90s players say the 2000 eras is soft. So that's pretty funny as you think about it. But the 2001 and 2011 era did play more bigger. Basically, they didn't shoot as many threes. As you can see, it's similar to the 90s. So it's not too much of a difference
it
as
was
people want to say. The points are less, the pace of play is less. So
Mm-hmm.
it was very similar. I know they want to say that LeBron only played in the 3 point era, but he played in both of these eras. He had to adjust, and that's why he's shooting more 3 pointers. But he scored more in the 2001 to 2011 era. So he
Okay.
was a better scorer in his prime, of course.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Greg.
no. I was just saying that that these. I don't know. I don't know why complain about these. If these are the numbers and these are the numbers, I don't know how else you would figure out 30 teams and how they did without these numbers. But the thing that shocks me is the like this 3 point shot era. You would think it would have been more points. It's literally a 5 point difference between the 90s, aka the plumbers era, everybody
Mm-hmm.
says, to the era of the more skill, where the only difference is more three point attempts. So if it leaves me to believe people think shooting threes makes you a better player.
Like I said, I brought these numbers up because I wanted to be that way because they thought I was bringing them up for a narrative reason to bring an agenda or purpose, but it wasn't really just doing
Anyone
that.
can tell you they score more in this era. You can't. I don't know why people be entertaining stupidity. I've learned to just ignore stupidity. I ignore it. There's so many posts I see. It's just
Mm-hmm.
on both sides that I just
Mm-hmm.
ignore it.